Gojo getting sealed is one of the most dynamic plot twists to ever grace Jujutsu Kaisen, let alone modern shonen. Because here you got this dude who could steal your girl with ease, unyielding riz that just drips from his walk, and unspoken steez that just capitalizes on his already overpowered abilities. And out of nowhere, he's just gone. He's erased from the narrative. He's no longer a threat and everyone has to fend for themselves. It's absolutely great plot development. Now, was it motivated by Akutami's obvious disdain for Gojo? Well, that's completely true. But what I love about this bombshell in the narrative is that it completely goes against everything we know from shonen manga. You tend to believe that someone as overpowered as Gojo can just steamroll through his enemies and it's GG. But the fact of the matter is, no matter how strong you are, anyone has a weakness that can be exploited. And what's even greater is that this was all planned from the beginning. Every move that fake Geto and the cursed users were making from literally chapter 10 was all leading up to this moment. And by understanding Gojo's personality, nature, weaknesses, and everything in between, they forced his back against the wall and he was completely and utterly defeated. Gojo for the longest time was this metaphorical safety net keeping curses at bay. A guy so legendary and eyes so majestic, his mere existence shifted the world's equilibrium, forcing curses to get stronger. He's the goat among sheep, a black cow with 9 lives, the moist critical to a herd of Logan Pauls. Gojo isn't just some random guy, he's a literal force of nature and an active calamity in the Jujutsu Kaisen world. And by eliminating him from the picture, to put it simply, the balance shifts, everyone is screwed, and no one is safe. And that's why I very much respect Akutami's decision to have the hidden inventory arc precede the Shibuya Incident, because we get to see why Gojo is the way he is, how and why he developed his moral foundation for protecting the weak, and why he's regarded as the strongest in Jujutsu society. Well, until chapter 236, where Sukuna produced the most brutal violation in the entire series, the disrespect was unmatched. Not only does Akutami hate Gojo, he loves messing with his readers. But in hidden inventory, Gojo pretty much solidified himself as the pillar of Jujutsu Kaisen, because even after getting folded by Toji, he bounces back like he's Luffy, pulls out his Uno reverse card like he's Max Fosh in the Sidemen charity match, and turns Toji into the physical embodiment of the Apple logo. The underlying notion was meant to exemplify the overwhelming gap between Gojo and the rest of the cast, and, well, also to violate Toji. Gojo's failure to save Riko showcases the underlying humanity within his character. Someone who saw himself as above humanity found a reason to protect the weak, seeking a strength that he never saw before. But what makes this more wild is that Geto is essentially the one who set up Gojo's moral foundation, and despite being so immensely overpowered, he was powerless in stopping his friend from walking down a path of self-destruction. And before departing, Geto proposes Gojo a question that I think was the nail in the coffin that caused his reshape in identity. Are you the strongest because you're Satoru Gojo, or are you Satoru Gojo because you're the strongest? The culmination of these events, the isolation, on top of an unchanging Jujutsu society, fueled Gojo's motivation, and so he chose to rebel and collect a squad of young idealists that could support him along his endeavors. Each of these elements formulated Gojo into who he is today, an overzealous, overconfident, cocky asshole whose moral foundation is grounded in protecting the weak while fostering a united front of sorcerers who can compete on his level. Because let's keep it a buck, when you're born as a level 50 raid boss and everyone is struggling at level 1, it can get ultimately lonely. My guy is the true definition of suffering from success, and all he can do is maintain his lighthearted composure while he builds his empire. In fact, when you compare him to the scale of power to every other special grade in his tier, there's no wonder why he's such an arrogant asshole, because even his closest contemporaries were mere ants in his presence. Other sorcerers are pretty much just a handicap under his domain of prestige, let alone regular people. So it's such a calculated setup that forces him not to be able to maximize his abilities, all in the works of preserving human life. Well, it all led to his downfall and him getting sealed. And at that point when Gojo gets sealed, Pandora's box opens, and as they say, all hell breaks loose. The distribution of power shifts, and the dynamic goes completely against the very fabric of the Jujutsu Kaisen verse. The stakes rise immensely because that safety net is no longer applicable. Just like biology, it's like a fight or flight response because it pushes everyone to grow and develop, or else they won't survive. It's live or die. It's the catalyst that provokes the story to invest in the much darker themes of the narrative, such as death, sacrifice, the consequences of one's actions, and of course highlighting the intense potency of the villain cast. past. And the repercussions of the Shibuya Incident end up reverberating throughout the rest of the story. Each major plot point continuing into the story all stems from Gojo's removal. It ends up fueling the motivations of every character in the cast, leading to many emotionally charged moments and confrontations. In many ways, the Shibuya Incident is like the Marineford of Jujutsu Kaisen, and by breaking the boundary to such an extent, it undeniably showcases one of the greatest pieces of storytelling in new gen manga or anime.